What if Mufasa had a will? What if Darth Vader had a trust? And what exactly did Harry Potter's parents leave behind? If you've ever wondered about the legacy lessons hiding inside your favorite movies, welcome to 82 Toothpicks. I'm Ethan. I'm joined by Thad and the Ambers. We believe every movie is an estate planning movie. You just have to know where to look. So grab your popcorn, settle in, and let's talk about the movie. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Today, It's me and Amber.
Yeah.
I'm Ethan. This is Amber, and we're going to talk about a movie today.
Yeah. It's going to be good.
Yep. What movie are we talking about, Amber?
This movie is called I Care a Lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This was unlike anything we have watched in a long time.
Indeed. We'll rate it at the end like we always do, but I was not a huge fan of this movie.
No, it's not not going to make my list of favorites, but it was a really interesting watch for Elder Law Month.
Yeah.
And I think there's some really interesting, important things we can talk about today because that particular topic is all through this story.
For sure. Yeah. It's, it was interesting looking for movies for the month of May because estate planning, right? That's the whole point of our podcast is that estate planning is everywhere, but elder law is its own unique brand of estate planning. And so in this movie, there's definitely estate planning themes in it, but the estate planning themes are there as the backdrop to a pretty significant elder abuse story.
Yeah.
And that just sort of, it's so odd that you would have an entire
movie
2-hour film
based around
elder
abuse,
elder financial abuse.
It
was,
which is a bigger thing than I think a lot of people realize, that elder abuse is like a real issue we face in this country.
Yeah, I mean, we deal with people all the time here at the office where somebody calls in and says, "I need to change mom and dad's power of attorney."
Yeah,
like just behind the scenes. Every single one of us in the building knows that is fundamentally a thing that not only we can't do, but that we can't even talk to that person anymore. Because as soon as you say, I need to change someone else's legal document and it's a power of attorney, meaning you're changing who that person chose as their representative, that immediately sounds like elder abuse.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some icky situations out there that we don't think about or talk about very often. Whether we liked the movie or not, there's some of those themes that I think make this kind of a valuable movie because it deals with it in a little bit of a silly, out there kind of way. Yeah.
It takes ultimately what is really an extremely difficult situation for families.
Yep.
And it wraps that in kind of a fantastical story.
Almost a goofy whodunit kind of story.
Yeah, it's weirdly like goofy is the right word because it's so out there. Everything that happens between kind of the rising action, right, the setting the stage with the guardianships and stuff, and we'll talk about all that in a second, and the end where, spoiler, she gets her comeuppance.
Yeah.
All of that is so absurd and so ridiculous and not really even believable.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I didn't like this movie. But it's all driven by this guardianship and elder abuse questions from the beginning. It's just, it's so odd.
Yeah. Do you want to give a synopsis of what this movie was about?
I actually came up with one.
That's good. I don't think, you said spoiler alert, I don't think we can talk about this movie with any justice without totally giving away the ending. So we're just going to say that right now, but we're going to have to pick that ending apart just a little bit because there was some interesting stuff that went on there.
Sure. So here's how I would describe this movie. This is a movie about a fashionable lady who loves paperwork, hates her job, and starts a caregiving business where she locks up old people, sells their houses, and steals their diamonds. It's a girl boss story if you ignore all the crimes and the fact that she's a terrible person.
She is a terrible person.
Like,
yeah.
I hated the middle of the movie because it was so ridiculous. And also, I hated this movie because I was uncomfortable watching her on screen. Not because she was a bad actor.
No,
right?
the actress was great,
fantastic.
But
this character is truly terrible.
Yes. All of the villains in movies, I have not hated a character as much as this one in a long time.
Yeah.
And we watched it with a friend who was actively yelling at the screen every time she did something.
Yes. And we got to the end of the movie and she was like, I hate this movie so much. I hate it. I hate her and I hate how it ended. And then the movie actually ended and she gets shot.
Yeah.
The main character does. And Tammy was like, oh.
Now it's okay.
Well, that's better. Like, that's how bad this was. It was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So that's my summarize a movie badly.
That was, yeah. I don't know that tells anyone in the audience
it really doesn't
at all what we watched.
So here's the basic plot of the movie. The movie opens with a really heartbreaking scene of this adult child, right? So it's a gentleman probably in his 40s or 50s trying to get into a care facility to see his mom. And the care facility staff basically keeps him from getting in. There's security there. There are a couple of orderlies and the receptionist, and together they keep this guy out of the facility. That's because his mom is under a guardianship, and the guardian has said that she can't see anybody in her family because they make her agitated. Okay, so we've got a facility stopping family from visiting somebody who's like a resident or a patient in the facility. And then you meet this character later, and as is typical, I am terrible at names, and I absolutely cannot remember the main character's name.
We should look that up because we can't do this whole thing and not.
You find out that she runs a professional guardianship service. So she's a professional guardian, and she has a wall of her with pictures of all of the people that she is guardian for. Her name is Marla.
Yes, Marla Grayson.
Yes. So Marla is this professional guardian, and you kind of get introduced to her as this guardian, and you don't really have a real sense of any kind of negative stuff. You see this guy, and he basically throws a fit. He throws a fire extinguisher at the door and trying to break into the care facility and stuff. And like, you relate to that in that moment. Like, if you know what the backdrop of this story is, which is this caregiving scenario with the guardian and all of this, you watch him trying to get in to see his mom, and the staff keeping him out. That's kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And so you leap from this heartbreaking moment into the technical side of it with
you actually see the caregiver in court.
Yeah, you see Marla in court with the son of they call her the ward, the lady in the facility, and he's got his own lawyer, but his lawyer never really talks.
Yeah,
it's him in court complaining about how Marla keeps him from seeing his mom, and how that's not only not fair, but it's inhumane, which is absolutely a justification that people argue for, right?
Sure.
We'll get into all of that when we talk about the elder law themes, but it's a very common refrain.
Yep.
In these kind of situations. And Marla talks to the judge, and she says, "You appointed me to act in her best interests, mom's best interests."
Right.
And that's where you see her character first.
Yes.
But then she leaves court, she goes back to her office, and it's very, I'll say Wall Street. It's got this kind of
Fortune 500 kind of looking,
very
really
very
slick,
modern
very-
offices. She's, like I said before, she's got this wall of faces of all her wards. And then as she's in the building, you start to get a sense of her character because she finds out somebody died, and she gets upset, not because that person died, but because that person died 3 months into the guardianship and they never had time to use up all of their money.
Right.
And so that's the first bit where you start to go, oh, this is how this is going to go.
Uh-huh.
And it's just from there you see her encounter a new ward, and she's kind of got this scheme going with a doctor and the care facility, and there's
she's kind of got the lawyer played.
Yeah, a little bit. So she's got kind of this group of people that all sort of collaborate to bring seniors under her care. And so she finds this one person who the doctor says is a pain in her neck, and that's how she becomes a ward, the patient does. She's played by Diane West, and her name is Jennifer. And Jennifer is really quite well-to-do. She drives a Mercedes. She lives in a very nice house.
Yep.
In the suburbs. Right.
Just
she's
very put together,
Yeah.
took care of herself kind of young lady.
probably upper middle class. She worked in finance for 40 years, I think they say in the movie.
Yep.
And she's really when you encounter her for the first time, she's totally fine.
Yeah.
She forgets her keys or maybe her phone or something like that and has to go back in the house. But I do that like every third Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
this lady is
she's
totally competent.
normal. But the judge believes the doctor. Jennifer doesn't have counsel at that emergency hearing. It's an emergency for her own safety.
Yep.
Marla gets appointed as her guardian. She moves Jennifer into a care facility and immediately starts taking stock of the assets that she has. So they're inventorying the house, and they're
finding her bank accounts and her
and they find her safety deposit box. And they open the safety deposit box, and in the safety deposit box is a bunch of stuff. There's a watch, there's some money, there's some precious metals, and then there's a book. And inside the book is a hollowed out section of the pages where they find a little pouch full of diamonds. And now the story is completely off the rails because it turns out Jennifer is the mother of a Russian mob boss.
Yes.
And the rest of the movie is the Russian mob boss trying to get Jennifer, first, out from under Marla's care, and second, get revenge on Marla for taking the diamonds.
Yes. So it sets it up really weird really interesting because you've got Marla, who's really running her own ring. She's definitely not a straight-laced businessman. She's scheming all of these people and swindling them out of her money.
Definitely
their money.
Definitely the villain.
Right. Definitely the villain. And they set her up against another
Definitely
bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a likable, like, sometimes you kind of like thinking Godfather, kind of like, this is the story about this
crime boss
who
you kind of want to see
succeed.
Yeah.
No, this guy is just
Ocean's
a crime
11,
boss.
right? Ocean's 11 is a heist movie.
Yes.
Those guys are bad guys.
And you love every one of them.
But you want them to win because the casino guy is also a bad guy.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you want in this movie.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected him to be, and it is not.
No.
They do not set this guy up as the good guy. He's played by
Peter Dinklage.
Yep. His name is Roman. And yeah, so you find out that it's his mom that's been put in custody, and he is using like every crime boss tactic in the book. He's got, at one point, he sends these guys in, his team in to like break into the facility and try and get her out, and they're shooting orderlies, and it's just,
it's chaos.
Crime boss chaos. And ultimately they're unsuccessful. Somehow the nursing home staff is more formidable than...
Well, they get her
out, and then...
But the police show up and grab her before she can get to Roman's car.
Yeah. So the whole thing is just absurd, and it's one absurd crime scene after another absurd crime scene. So it kind of goes off the rails at that point when you've got this schemer ringleader who's really, I mean, she's a con artist. She plays all of the people to believe that she's just a saint, versus the crime boss, mob boss.
Yeah.
And it's just this wild.
It's clearly, and this is what Tammy was saying.
Yeah.
She hated this movie right up to the end. And I still actually don't think she liked the movie.
Yeah.
But she at least felt like there was justice because the bad guy lost.
Yeah. So going towards the end, what ultimately happens is they kind of decide, well, I hate you and you're a bad guy, but I'm also a bad guy, and think how much money we could make if we were bad guys that worked together.
Yeah.
And
the mob boss basically says, you have a great con going with this guardianship thing. Let's take it nationwide.
Yes. And he helps her expand. And so they're both like in this massive nationwide get rich quick scheme. She ends up on like magazines and like Fortune 500, and she's on the news, and she's doing all these interviews because she's got the greatest rising service business that anybody has ever seen nationwide, and they think she's this hero. And then ultimately at the end, the guy we see from that very first scene shows up after one of her interviews and kills her. Just point blank.
The guy from the very first part of the movie where they throw him out of the nursing home and he gets arrested. He comes back at the end and shoots her.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie. And it's like completely abrupt and again, completely absurd.
Yeah.
But she continues to have this ascending story of I'm winning because I'm taking advantage of seniors.
Of everyone else. Yeah. Yeah. And so it was a weird twist at the end, and it was almost like, I don't know, anytime a movie makes you cheer for someone's death, you feel really gross at the end.
Yep. That's part of why I didn't like this movie.
But yeah, just it wasn't interesting because you've got bad guy versus bad guy for a while, and then they join together as co-bad guys.
Yeah, because he's got the money and she's got they got the knowledge. Yeah,
right.
It can't end with this. You
weren't supposed to like either of these people. Right. How come they're getting away with all of the badness?
Right. And then just very abruptly at the end,
suddenly she doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
with all of that in mind, did you have a favorite character?
Ugh, everybody in this movie was horrible. For a lot of it, until you're really realizing her connections and that she's part of the mob boss ring, I was cheering for Jennifer. I think I think older lady.
I think she's my favorite character.
She was
too. I think because
for most of the movie, she was the only one with any compelling anything going on.
And you never really figure out who she actually is.
Yeah.
Because she's got a stolen identity.
Right.
Right. But the mob, right? Roman is the reason she has that identity.
Yeah.
But yeah, you find out about that and then you never really
you
hear why or how that came to be.
Starts being a Jennifer versus Marla story, and that's where I thought it was going, and then it ended up being a Marla versus Roman story, and we kind of lost.
But every time she talks to Marla, it doesn't matter how drugged up she is by the care center, she is like, "You are in so much trouble."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just found that to be very funny.
If I have to pick a favorite character, it's probably her. Yeah, this was one of those It was such an interesting movie because it's really like bright and colorful. Like the film style was just very, I'm even going to say like pop action movie. Like it almost gave,
like when the
I wanna
apartment
say
blows
Kill
up.
Bill vibes,
Yes,
or that
very
kind
much.
of
Sort
stylistic.
Of just, again, absurd, right?
Yeah.
It's over the top violence, and
Yeah.
not in a like gory way.
No, this one
just-
wasn't like constant violence the
just
whole
like
way through. It just
extreme-
like
this
you
would
would
never
never take
happen.
machine guns into a nursing facility to try and break someone out. Kind of absurd violence. I didn't find it like overly gory. Like I was uncomfortable watching that kind of thing. Like we've talked about with some of the James Bond movies or that kind of thing.
I remember we talked about specifically a couple of scenes.
It didn't have that, even though there was a torture scene and there was the
They have a bag over her head and things like that.
It wasn't like that level of violence. I thought maybe it could get there with the mob bosses, but it kept it kind of silly, campy.
Yeah,
the
campy,
whole way through.
That's a great word.
And also, you just hated every person in this movie.
You really, really did.
I don't know if
was just bad.
Got another. Okay, so let's flip the question.
Who was my least?
Who
favorite
was your
character?
least favorite character?
Marla, hands down.
Oh,
she's absolutely the worst.
She really is. She's just
the worst because she is the like taking advantage of seniors to get their money. Like I can't even describe how scummy people like that are. But from an attorney perspective, I was more offended by her character.
Yeah, I can see that.
You never really I don't know that she really is a lawyer per se.
No.
I don't think they ever tell you what her actual like professional background is. But because like in Iowa, in order like a professional guardian is almost impossible, but a lawyer can do it. There's a pretty small list.
Sure.
And so I had in my head, well, you couldn't do that if you weren't a lawyer. And so then I was just really offended.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's just not,
it's
not how it works. Lawyers aren't allowed to do that. And if she's being like, somebody's going to catch her.
Yeah. Her entire
and that they never did.
Driver
of
her personality is that I want all of the money, people be damned. Like her entire
what did she say?
Entire driver is
some people are lions.
Oh, I don't remember what the line was.
It's like predators and prey.
Yes.
There's a whole like a very specific line in the movie, and that's absolutely what you're talking about.
Yes. Like you're either the person getting the money or the person who's losing the money. So be the person getting the money.
Right.
Is her entire motivation. And she was just kind of awful to watch the whole way through. Again, not because of the acting. I like Rosamund Pike, but her character was just...
Yeah, she says there's two types of people in the world. The people who take and those getting took.
Yes.
Predators and prey, lions and lambs. And then she says, my name is Marla and I'm not a lamb. I'm an effing lioness.
Yeah.
And that was why this movie was rated R primarily, is
the language. Yeah. Language more than the violence.
And the violence is there, and it's unpleasant, right?
But
it's meant to be.
Probably
but it's like you said, it's campy.
PG-13 violence, not
anymore,
violence
for sure anymore.
But
yeah, when you drop
not that I love the violence, but
all over the place.
Yeah, this one had a lot of F words.
It's definitely going to be a rated R. But anyway, that's absolutely her kind of her character encompassed in one line is the people who take and those getting took.
Yeah. The other really, really hateable character. I mean, you don't like Roman. He just but
he's just
but
like
he's
petulant, like he's throwing a tantrum.
Yeah. He's not as hateable. He's just not likable.
Right.
The other one I really truly hated was the nursing home director.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I thought you were going to say the doctor. Because the doctor
Yeah.
is the worst.
The doctor is the
Like,
worst.
It's Marla and then Dr. Amos. Like,
Yeah.
she is.
But she was less of a, I don't know, watching the nursing home director just be willing to do whatever. You want me to drug this person more and keep them in her room? Okay,
when
I'll do that.
When Marla comes in and says, she only gets liquids.
Yep.
She gets sedated. She doesn't get to go outside.
Yep.
Take away most of her meds. Like,
yep.
Yeah, that's bad news right there.
Yeah. And he's just like, okay, whatever you say. And I'm like, you scum. I did not like him at all. That just, I'm not putting any moral thought into this. I'm just,
so
you're going to pay me off for this. So
I think that ring, right? Because that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
She's got a doctor. She's got a nursing home.
I think her lawyer, because she had a lawyer in some of those court scenes. She mostly talked for herself. The lawyers did not talk.
Yes, you're right.
But I think there was one scene that it's pretty clear her lawyer is in her pocket too.
Yep.
And all of the people who work for her are definitely in that.
So kind of on a little bit of a different angle, the lawyer that Roman hires to try to undo the guardianship.
Oh yeah.
He kind of made me squirm a little bit too.
Yeah.
He was just advocating, right? But you could tell he was like connected to the mob, and right, he walks into Marla's office with a briefcase of money.
Right.
And like he made me feel really slimy too, but more from a professional perspective. Like, this guy is gross.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Definitely didn't rise to the level of Marla or Dr. Amos or the nursing home director.
Right.
But yeah. How about scenes? Do you have a good favorite scene? That's kind of a tough one, because I did not like very much of this movie. But
so that's so interesting, because there was so many, like, all of the characters are hateable and all of the things they're doing are hateable. And I actually, like, sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, this was just bad.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that way after this movie. I felt like,
yeah,
this movie was not what I expected in any way, shape, or form. And
correct.
We'll get to this later, but would I want to watch this over? No, but am I glad I saw it once? Actually, I kind of am.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of that, like, it just made me think about some of these things and the way we approach elderly people differently. Or think about it when I don't usually.
Yeah, they call her a cherry.
Yeah.
Right? Because she's loaded.
Yeah.
And they're going to leech off of her.
Right.
And so they got the best pick of the possible options.
Right.
So she's the cherry on top.
Yeah. It is hard to say favorite scenes, though, because most of what they do is so unlikable.
Yeah.
I find courtroom scenes interesting in every movie, and this one was not different, because there are very few places that we are that intentional about the wording and the phrasing and how we use our language than in a courtroom. And I think that's true in real life, and I think that movies portray that really well. You get the most interesting, well-written dialogue and constructed arguments.
Because for it to be believable, it has to be precise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually, like, I was definitely pulled into the couple courtroom scenes in here, which was not the major.
Yeah, there were only a couple.
Point, right? But yeah, there weren't a lot of like, oh, that scene was really. There were some funny things in this movie, but but more absurd funny than like, oh, I really enjoyed that scene kind of funny. So I don't know, memorable scenes, not necessarily likable. The scene where they break into the nursing home is really memorable. There's something startling about the scene where they just moved her into a nursing home and they're going through every item in her house and they're selling everything and her house is for sale, and it's just this, like, it moves so fast and all of her stuff is gone and she has this beautiful house that's now on the market. And yeah,
striking.
That one probably, that was another almost a gut punch, made you feel things kind of scene, probably.
Yeah, I think I agree. I don't know that I wouldn't ever use the word favorite.
Yeah.
But memorable or striking, I think that applies to several things in this movie, right? The scene at the beginning for me really set the tone.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really interesting way.
And they never, her response in court after that wasn't like, she didn't respond to his allegations that she's keeping him from seeing his mom. She said, "Judge, you appointed me because family can't make the best decision because they're too close.
Right.
I don't have that problem. I can see the picture for what it is, and I can make the best decision because I'm not family."
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with his argument that, well, you can't just not let me see her. And
right.
Ultimately, the judge didn't care.
Right.
It's just, again, interesting, fascinating.
Yeah.
Sticks with you kind of moments.
So I'm going to switch a little bit into, because I think there's so much here and I think we can give a little more time into, there's so much elder law content in this movie.
Yeah.
And even after working here for a couple of years, I am only have a vague understanding of what elder law actually is. And I think there's a lot here that we can talk about, but you want to start by, like, we're an estate planning firm. What even is elder law? When we say it's elder law month, what are we talking about?
Yeah. So elder law is one of the very few practice areas that's defined by the age of the person you represent. It's right there in the name.
Yeah.
Elder law. So it's actually encompassing more than estate planning. If you look at it from a kind of a 50,000 foot view, the elder law umbrella takes a 65 and up kind of approach. You might say 55 and up, depending on how you parse who's a senior. For those of you who are 70 and up, you're not seniors yet, my boomer friends. But it's this umbrella of all of these legal fields, these practice areas, we call them, that as they're having an impact on a senior. So our approach to elder law is very much in the senior advocacy and elder care side of things. But elder law can be family law questions. Elder law can be, this movie is very much on the financial and we'll call them dependent adults side of things, particularly as it applies to people who are 65 and over. So elder law takes a variety of practice areas. Estate planning is another one, and looks at it through the lens of the age of the client, right? Because issues for seniors are different than issues for somebody in their 30s.
Right.
issues for seniors are closer, but still different as compared to issues for kids. We have similar questions about decision making. As we age, when we're young,
Right.
children are, by definition, under the law, unable to make decisions for themselves. So when, I mean, in an extreme case, right, both parents pass away, there has to be a guardian appointed to care for a child because they can't care for themselves.
Right.
This movie takes that in an elder law direction and says seniors who are declining in their capacity can't care for themselves, right? So
Right.
that's how I would illustrate the distinction between right, guardianship is for anyone who can't make decisions for themselves
Right.
about their own
Which
care.
is why sometimes our guardianships are for
Yeah. We had a client the other day who has a
minors
son
who have
who's
disabilities
disabled,
or who are
and they want to set up a guardianship so that when he turns 18, even though he can't provide for his own care, they're still able to do
Sure.
that legally.
Yep.
Right? That guardianship concept, that exists across all age groups. Elder
Right.
law is very specifically about guardianships and substitute decision-making for seniors.
Right.
It's very specifically about financial vulnerability for seniors. It's about abuse can be financial, but think of it as like in a marriage relationship. As we get older, dementia and Alzheimer's and some of these other dementias, specific dementias,
Yep.
change your personality, Lewy body.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, somebody who has been kind and gentle and loving for the last 50 years of your marriage becomes abusive
Yeah.
because they have
They
dementia.
become
and
violent. They become angry.
It changes their brain chemistry
Yep.
and the way they process information. And now they're verbally abusive, they're physically abusive. And right, so now it's a family law question.
Right.
Could be a criminal law question.
Yeah.
And is their capacity, did they know what they were doing? Right? And so it's all of those practice areas. Elder law is take every single one, look at it from the perspective of someone who is 65 and over.
Sure. So from that, there's a couple of, I'm going to say, really obvious major through lines in this movie, in I Care a Lot. The whole thing centers around guardianships and in this case, the negative action that is putting someone who doesn't want to be into forced
Arguably
care
doesn't need to be
into the forced care of a guardian legally. And you get to see all of the legal ins and outs of creating guardianships, which was a really interesting piece of this movie, I think, that we don't always think of until we have to deal with it ourselves.
Right.
We don't always think of, a lot of guardianships, you're dealing with a person who isn't voluntarily, whether because they can't or because they don't think they need it, deciding to go under someone else's care on their own. And that can be a difficult thing legally in the best of circumstances, right? And this is doing it forcibly in the worst of circumstances.
Yeah. Well, weirdly, forcibly in the best of circumstances.
Which makes it the worst of circumstances.
So Marla, as the guardian, the professional guardian, and that, I'll say it again, that makes me uncomfortable using that phrase because that shouldn't exist.
Sure.
To me, that shouldn't be a thing that it happens. Professional guardians, yuck. Marla inserts herself into Jennifer's life as the decision maker when Jennifer really doesn't need that.
Right.
And that's that pivot point of Jennifer is fine.
Yeah.
Marla convinces a judge that Jennifer is not fine. And the whole story progresses from there.
Right.
That's what you mean when you say the worst of circumstances, because she's fine.
Yes.
Everything's going great for her. Her son sees her every week. She drives a Mercedes. She's totally independent. And Marla stops all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
for financial gain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the major through lines is we get very in depth into the guardianship process. Okay, lawyer, from a technical perspective,
Oh boy.
did they deal with guardianships? I mean, obviously they're scamming the guardianship system.
Yeah.
But from a legal perspective, was it shown accurately?
It's hard to say from a local jurisdiction perspective, right? I don't know what the law or the rules are where the guardianships were set up in this movie.
Where they were.
You kind of get the feeling that it was probably somewhere on the West Coast.
Yeah, it had a little California feel, kind of.
But then the house styles weren't really that.
Yeah, it was supposed to be ambiguous, I think.
Which I think is good because it meant that you didn't have the disconnect of, at least for me as an attorney watching it, you didn't have the disconnect of, well, that's not how that works there.
Yeah, that's
right.
Not my state.
If they had done it in Iowa, I would say, well, none of that would happen that way.
Right.
Because it wouldn't. We've got, I don't remember what year it was. Could have been 2020 actually. That Iowa had some new. They kind of redid their Guardianship Act.
Yeah.
And instituted, right, put in some specific protections against things that are happening in this movie. So the first thing to talk about is they have what's called an emergency hearing. So it's an emergency petition to have a decision maker and caregiver, in a way, appointed by a judge to take away Jennifer's decision making about her own care. And an emergency petition is used in a situation where there is actually an emergency, right? So the doctor comes into court. She says before they go to court, she says she can massage the facts, basically.
Right.
So she makes it sound like Jennifer is in dire straits, and a guardian is the only way to protect her from harm because of her own inability to make choices.
Right.
The best way I illustrate things is to tell stories. I had a client one time who was adamant that he was fine, absolutely adamant, and had a firearm. And his kids were terrified that he was going to shoot the housekeeper that was coming into his house, because she would come in at the normal time every day, every week, or I don't remember exactly, and do the cleaning. But he would wake up while she was there cleaning and freak out.
Yeah.
Because
panic.
Somebody's in my house.
Yeah.
And he couldn't remember.
Yep.
And they could not get him to voluntarily leave, and they didn't have power of attorney, so they couldn't, make the decision for him. And so they were strongly considering, are we in a harm to others situation,
right,
where getting a guardian in place allows us to
at least
protect
take
the housekeeper
firearm away
in that
kind
case.
Of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So is that an emergency? I don't know. Probably. Right. And we talked about that very specifically, and they ultimately decided,
if the housekeeper gets shot, she's going to think it was an emergency real fast.
Too. I mean, he had threatened her with the gun before.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, probably there's an emergency. Ultimately, in that case, they decided not to go forward with that and took a different angle on it. But yeah, we had to have that conversation of what's an emergency. In this movie, there was no emergency. No. Right. So an emergency.
There wasn't actually even a need.
Right.
Much less an emergency.
So the emergency hearing, that's the gateway into the guardianship without the ward knowing. Because in an emergency hearing, there's no opportunity for notice. Right. There's no opportunity to have a lawyer appointed for the ward, right?
Yep.
So in that case, in Iowa, there would be a period of time, I believe it's 30 days, where you now have to go through all those steps now that you've got the guardianship started, and come back to it and have the actual hearing and have the actual evidence and have someone appointed properly, because the emergency is now solved and you can jump through all the proper hoops and give notice and get a lawyer and all of those things.
Yep.
And you never got that far in this movie,
right?
Because it devolved into shooting and blowing things up and whatnot. So just right there, Iowa law doesn't really do it that way.
Right.
interesting. The guardianship. You hear her come into her office at the beginning, and this was a throwaway line for most people, but they talk about how to bill.
Oh,
and she was in court for several different cases.
Yep.
So she billed her time at the courthouse in full to all of the cases.
Yeah.
That is fundamentally unethical.
Oh, I believe that.
But it happens all the time. I
believe that too.
Lawyers do it. It just happens. And part of that is often in those cases you're court appointed. And so the court appointed rate for an attorney is so much lower than what they would otherwise make. And they can't pay their staff, and they can't rent their building, and they can't pay for their phones and internet on a minimal court appointed wage. But for her, everything was private.
Yes.
And so she was billing several
through
hours.
The nose
I think she had a full day in the courtroom or at the courthouse. She billed the full day to everyone.
And she's got power of attorney for all of these guardians, so she's just pulling the money out of there.
Well, that's the thing, right? Guardianship is sort of a replacement for a power of attorney. So she is the decision maker as the guardian.
Sure.
If those
she
people
doesn't need to be power of attorney because she's the guardian.
If those people had powers of attorney, again, in Iowa, that power of attorney could have showed up in court and said, no, I'm the power of attorney. You have to appoint me as guardian. And Iowa law actually talks about that specifically.
Yeah.
So there's another example where that's just not how it works. The scene in the movie at the very beginning.
Yeah. Did he say something about, like, they removed him as power of attorney or something like that? I thought there was something in there.
I don't remember that.
I almost have to go watch it again.
I was paying attention to how his argument.
Yeah.
It is actually defined as how do I say that? Dependent adult abuse to prevent someone from seeing their family. That's called isolating.
Oh,
and when you isolate someone under your care, under your protection, unless you can document that it is for good reason, right? So the person that's trying to see them as dangerous or abusive themselves, that is often considered elder abuse.
Yeah.
So just not letting the son in to see her, right, to see his mom,
right?
That's a problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boy,
lots of
all
layers.
All of the catalysts of the action in this movie were elder law related. Every single one of them. Yeah,
because you've got the care center, and you've got, just the fact that she's a senior, right? Jennifer is an older adult, and so she's.
And it seemed like there was probably some elder abuse issues going on in this care facility, even without.
Oh yeah.
And that's so heartbreaking. We see it. We've seen it in a few care facilities locally, even.
Man, it's brutal.
I know there's some things going on with one of them right now that are just horrible to hear about.
Yeah.
And so it's actually like that is a thing that comes up even. We're small town Iowa, very rural care facilities and a culture that really kind of respects age and wisdom. And we still see some of these really, really heartbreaking stories. We had people call regularly, and we don't do that sort of I want to sue the nursing home kind of work.
We don't do the litigation side of it.
The litigation side. But we get those calls, and it's always like, it's just really sad.
Yeah. And I think that's part of, like, that's the other side of not liking this movie.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't like this movie because I hated every character. I didn't like this movie because it was absurd. And the absurdity I don't care for that style of storytelling.
Yeah.
But I didn't like this movie because it took something that's so devastating to families and it made it a joke.
Yeah.
And in the end, the way the characters interact, you find out it's not really a joke. But
you knew it was bad, but they kind of lightened it up a little.
Yeah, and I think there's at some point it's appropriate to do that, right? Something that's really heavy, like elder abuse and end of life care and all of those things. We do that. I use little bits of humor during
You
client
need
meetings.
to be able to talk about it.
Because if you,
kind of thing. Yeah.
And just for my own mental health, talking to people all day, every day about these hard things, right?
Yeah.
It would be,
Yeah.
I don't know that I could do it without a little break in the tension. But that's not what this was.
No.
This movie was not a little break in the tension. This movie set you up with a heartbreaking story of a son who can't see his mom, with a manipulative, abusive, at least financially, professional caregiver, and then takes that and spins it into this absurd tale of this woman's defense of herself, success, and then trajectory into almost the stratosphere of money making off of this abuse scheme.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not okay with it. I hate that as the story.
Yep.
And so when she gets shot at the end, it was just dissatisfying because you never had closure, but at least some justice was served.
Yeah.
So that's just part of why I really hated this movie.
Yeah. Do you want to go into ratings?
We sure can. Is there anything else you want to talk about for elder law and estate planning themes?
I'm sure there was more in there.
I mean, the first thing is, obviously, if you want to avoid any possibility of this happening, which, again, in Iowa, pretty unlikely that it could happen.
Yeah.
But you have the opportunity to be in control, right? So if you're listening to this and you're saying, I don't want to be Jennifer, I want to make sure that never can happen to me, get a power of attorney in place.
Yeah.
I mean, I in my second book, I have a whole chapter about the most important estate planning document.
Yeah.
It's a power of attorney.
Right. Without giving specific legal advice.
Yeah.
That's almost a universal.
You got to have it.
Yeah.
And who do you appoint and when do you have it go into effect and all of that? That's where the legal advice comes in because everybody's got a different situation, right? The answer is different if you're married. The answer is different based on the age of your kids. The answer is different based on the kind of assets you have, right? I mean, there's all kinds of nuance to it, but you need the document. And that's that would have solved Jennifer's problem in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. There was just so much.
Yeah. It's really, really
in there.
Heavy in there. It's thick. Yeah. We can rate it.
Sure.
You want to start?
I sure can.
I mean, I've been saying all along I hated it. So
yeah. But our rating system, our laugh, cry, think, makes scoring it interesting.
Yeah.
I think. I will say I didn't love this movie, but I also am not mad that I watched it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'm kind of glad to have seen it. And that's an interesting thing, and I'll get to that in my points in a minute, but laugh. This was in some ways kind of I used the word campy earlier, but almost a lighthearted action movie style movie. And I did laugh out loud a few times, but it's not like I would call this comedy.
It's billed as a dark comedy.
Yeah. I would maybe go 2 for laugh.
Okay.
There were some hard parts, but not like this made me cry. Again, it lightened everything up so much that even the heartbreaking scene in the beginning was absurd enough that I wasn't like feeling that emotionally strongly about it. So I'm going to give it a 1 for cry. I have been thinking about it since we watched it on Saturday, though. So I'm going to give it a 2 for think. And I actually struggle with that last would I watch it again point because I would never seek this out again. I probably wouldn't walk out of the room if somebody else was watching it, though. And to me, part of that last point is, would I recommend that somebody watch this, or would I warn them against watching it? There are cases that I might say, oh, if you're interested in thinking about this topic in a different way, you might want to check out.
Yeah.
Like I can see.
That's an interesting perspective.
Saying, oh, you might want to watch this movie But I'm still not going to give it that last point,
Sure.
even though,
Yeah.
because
you wouldn't seek it out.
right.
Yeah.
I have to at least like some of the people to want to watch a movie again. And there was just nothing redeemable about
Yeah.
98% of the characters in this movie.
So that's a 5.
Yeah.
I mean, we give a lot of 6s and 7s.
Yep.
5 is
5 is on the lower side.
I think that's reasonable. I mean,
unless there is zero content in a movie, it'd be really hard to give it.
Yeah.
Like a 0.
Yeah, I would struggle with that. And I'm gonna rate. You'll hear that in my rating too.
Sure.
So Amber gave it a 5. My rating is not a lot different. I did not. I mean, even if I chuckled at a couple of scenes, I actually found this movie more frustrating, even in the funny moments, than I found it comical. So I'm going to give it a 1 for laugh. I'm going to give it a 1 for cry. The only moment of this movie where I related to anyone on an emotional level was the first scene.
Yeah.
With the guy trying to get into the nursing home. And even that was absurd, right? Like he's throwing throwing the fire extinguisher at the window, and he's it was just
they
that
really
was too much.
Pulled down the emotion of the topic in this movie a lot.
So I'm going to give it a 1 for cry also. I also have been thinking about it since we watched it. So it's going to get a 2 for me. I found my professional interest was piqued. Not to the extent that I had that in The Lincoln Lawyer, because The Lincoln Lawyer was so unique because it was about attorney ethics rules.
It was more for lawyers.
Was where the conflict was. And this movie is much more like the court system failed this lady.
Yeah.
And fails all of the people that Marla is guardian for when it doesn't force her to prove what she's claiming about them. Right. And so I've been thinking about that. So I'll give it a 2 for think. And I don't need to watch this movie again. Like I said, I found it to be unpleasant. Not that the watch experience was so bad, but I just felt yucky. Yeah,
there's enough slimy stuff going on, and they don't take the slimy stuff seriously enough, probably, to make it redeeming.
Right. But in no case was it a 0 for me. Like, were there funny moments and did I recognize them? Yes. Were there touching moments and did I recognize them? Yes. It just didn't. It didn't hit the scale for me in any meaningful way. So I'll give it a 4. Yeah. But like you said, am I glad I watched it? Yes. Do I appreciate movies being made about some of these things that people encounter way more often than we talk about? Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad people are doing movies like this.
It's one of those things that there are people everywhere trying to scam our parents out of their money, whether it's this way or something else. This maybe was an absurd thing, but until we really start, there's almost an awareness thing. Like, we don't talk about it until it happens to you. So how do you prepare for it? Kind of a thing.
All those scams targeting the elderly, right? Like, that's a real thing. The sweetheart scams where it's somebody from far away who they meet online and convinces them that they're going to move closer to them and they'll be companions and start getting money. And that stuff happens all the time. Yeah. And it's so heartbreaking. And so telling a story about those kinds of things, I think that's really important.
Even the calls our parents get that sound like they're from their grandkids far away.
I'm in Mexico and I need money.
Yeah. That's real stuff that happens to people, right?
Yeah. People suck.
On that note, anything else you want to say about this movie?
I don't think so. This is kind of a bonus episode.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when we'll release it. But,
I
think this was important
for us. Stretch our
Elder
Law Month an extra week.
I think it was important for us to talk about this one.
I think so too.
It hit some really hard things.
Interesting to watch and worth talking about, I think.
You bet. I think that's it for now.
All right.
We'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to 82 Toothpicks, a podcast from the Heisinger Law Firm. This episode featured your hosts, Ethan, Thad, and the Ambers, breaking down today's movie and the estate planning lessons hiding inside it.
If you enjoyed the show, check out my It's Not Too Late book series for practical insights on protecting your family and your legacy. You can also visit HuizingaLaw.com for more resources and past episodes of the podcast. Be sure to follow the show wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And remember, every movie is an estate planning movie.